Hello and welcome back to another video feature of the Immersive Worlds Handbook. Today I am in Nuremberg, Germany, and part of a tour I'm doing of some historic sites in the city. You can certainly check out those other videos. But today I want to focus on this interesting hotel I'm staying at called Hotel Drei Rabben, Hotel of the Three Ravens. And I'm in one of the theme rooms, and I'll take you through discussion of some of the other theme rooms, but I don't know if you can make this out or not, but right here in the corner, this is part of the particular theming of this room, the myth as they call it, and there also is a text that accompanies this particular myth that goes up the wall, and if we can capture it, all the way above us on the ceiling. I have to flip the camera on here to show you this, but you can see this very long text, which I'll talk about in a little bit, is on the ceiling. And then you can see some of the additional theming here. In this case, we have some of the cityscape, and if you look at it, it is, if you go up close, it is made of a particular rock here, if you feel it, and there's some grout in there as well. Kind of pan through the room. Seems to be a particular color scheme that they've created here. And again, this in the corner represents a time machine. And over here, the pretty modern bathroom, so it's what you expect in most probably comfortable hotels as far as bathrooms. So nothing thematic inside there. And from what I gather, the hotel, it's a fairly, it's a fairly small hotel. It's, I think, probably a little bit older, but one of the things I like is how they've created these theme or myth rooms, which I think gives you a different sensibility when you're staying in the room, as I've talked about in some other videos. If we look outside, we get some of the historic shots of the city you can see here. And this particular hotel is located in Altstadt, the old part of Nuremberg. And one of the things they've done, in addition to some of the room decor that we're talking about here, is they've essentially created, I think, a pretty good focus on a brand. And of course, the brand is established through the three ravens. And you can actually see some of the literature here. Your typical pen and stationery. We'll talk about this in a second. This is the book that explains the myths, sort of your guide to the rooms. And then these are kind of cool. These are, again, versions, hard to pick up on the camera there, but the ravens, you can see there maybe the shape, 3 of those. And it's kind of a nice touch. You come into the room and it's the cookie or candy that you sometimes get in a lot of hotels, really everywhere. The do not disturb sign. These signs have, I think, become kind of a big deal as far as just the art, the design side of things. Let's see if there's any more information here. This is just more of the stationery. Yeah, so maybe what we'll do, let's take a look at the mention here, the myths. We'll just sit down at the desk and take a peek through these. And this has the information, the address of the rooms, and this is actually in German. So we should flip the pages to the English side. You'll see that they've used this, some of the highlights of the city, because Nuremberg is such a historic city, they've used that in a number of the rooms. Caspar Hauser, very famous story of Caspar Hauser. And they've done some, I think, some pretty interesting stuff with textual elements. Okay, so I think we'll flip. One of the things I was going to say before we take a look at the English version of this is that if you are familiar with the German hotel scene, you're probably aware of Hotel 25 Hours, a chain that has representation in Berlin and Frankfurt and many other cities, and they do a lot of quirky, in some cases avant-garde theming. And then the one hotel, if you've read the Immersive Worlds Handbook, that stands out in Berlin is the Propeller Island. And you know, if you've watched my video channel, that I actually made an effort to make it to Propeller Island last time I was in Berlin. And unfortunately, I couldn't get inside to see any of the rooms. So, but you could say I'm a little bit obsessed with themed rooms and themed hotels. Okay, so here is, as you can see, Legends of Nuremberg as told by the Three Ravens. So again, they're keeping up this theming, the brand theming. I'm not going to take you all through all these, but one of the things I like about this is that it allows you, I think, to get into the mood of the rooms. This talks about the different rooms, and I think we will read the Time Machine. Again, the Time Machine is the room that we're in here looking at, and in particular, there's, as I said, there's this text on the wall. So let's take a look at what this particular myth is here, and you can read along basically. Okay, so it's telling the story that a long time ago there was a master locksmith who worked in his workshop. Rumors slowly started to spread through the back streets of Nuremberg that he was crazy. Many stared at his wife and pitied her. One day she came home from St. Lawrence Church, burst into the husband's workshop and asked him why he worked even on Sundays. He screamed at her, "I'll never succeed at this, and now you nag at me the whole day." With that, he left her crying in his workshop. She saw the little locker in which her husband always kept his most secret work. It was open. He must have forgotten to lock it. She saw something about the size of an egg appeared to be a little heart. She was shocked because she could actually feel it beating in her hands. The devil must have made a pact with her husband. She threw the thing down onto the workbench in disgust and hit it with a hammer until it had shattered into 1,000 tiny pieces. And again, this is what we actually see. I was showing you initially, right? We see this in German, the myth on the wall in front of the desk, and then also up on the ceiling. Okay, so continuing back to the myth, when she turned round, her husband was standing right there in front of her, sobbing. She begged his forgiveness. He said, "Tonight I shall start all over again. It was the devil's work, so please pray for me that I can withstand the temptation this time." His wife understood and went into the kitchen to pray. The locksmith accompanied her for only a moment. Then, out of nowhere, 3 black ravens suddenly appeared on the floor of his workshop, picked up the tiny broken pieces of his broken invention and their beaks and flew off into the darkness. But when he returned, Heinlein had forgotten all about his first invention and immediately began working on a new project. By the next morning it was finished. The citizens of Nuremberg gathered at the city hall where Peter Heinlein's invention was proudly displayed. There, inside a small glass case, was a tiny, delicate ticking clock. No one had ever seen such a small clock before. Soon it was known far and wide as the Nuremberg egg, the world's first pocket watch. But whatever happened to Heinlein's first invention? Centuries later, in our not-too-distant future, a visitor from Fürth will be spending the night at Hotel Drei Rabben when he suddenly hears a strange noise at midnight. From out of nowhere, 3 ravens will have landed on the floor of his hotel room. They'll open their beaks and drop the wondrously tiny pieces taken from Heinlein's workshop long ago. Then they'll start to speak and tell the amazed guests just exactly what these parts are for. Since the man from Fürth is a mechanical engineer, he will understand the significance immediately. By next morning, he will have assembled the pieces into a tiny machine and put it into operation. And so it will be one day on a future January 24th, 2070, that the world will once again stand in awe of yet another Nuremberg invention, something that mankind has desired for thousands of years, a time machine. But no one will know it was the three ravens from Nuremberg, which centuries before had taken the tidings of a time from Firth, sleeping in room 13, enabling him to make the greatest Nuremberg invention of all time. Okay, so it's a very, as you can see, right, a very lengthy myth that's explained. But as you gather, I am staying in room 13, and so this gives you the specifics of that room. I won't take you through all of these, but you get a sense, I think, of what the intention here is, the different themes. This one appears to be a sports-themed room, one of the junior suites. The Gooseman's Fountain, again, Caspar Hauser, if you've seen the film by Werner Herzog. The first railway. That looks to be a pretty interesting one. We have everything here, the beautiful fountain, the deep well, Toy Town, you know about the famous toy museum in town. Talk about some additional sites here of Nuremberg. It says something here about room 53. Only a few guests are manage, or I guess have managed to visit them in room 53. And this just describes some of the rooms available, the myth rooms, the junior suites, and the Robin Spiegel suite for 3 persons. Okay, and I probably won't show you any of the lobby area, but if you go down to the lobby, they have a pretty nice lobby setting. They also do a really, I would say, outstanding breakfast, and I found the hospitality to be just amazing here. So certainly, if you come to Nuremberg, and there's a lot to see in Nuremberg of a historic nature, if you're a history buff, if you're into dark history, certainly it's a place that shouldn't be on your map. But if you come, what's great about the Hotel Drei Rabben is that it's right in the middle of the city in Altstadt. It's literally a couple minutes from the train station, about 3 minutes. And you're in the middle of everything. And for me, whenever I travel, even if I wasn't studying theme spaces and themed hotels, I would certainly be interested in staying at a hotel like this one because I think it's very comfortable. And also they've put some time into thinking about giving each room a story, a myth, a narrative that for me makes it more interesting to stay at as a guest. Again, that's my personal preference, but even if I weren't studying theming and immersive spaces, I would say that a hotel like this one offers a lot more than just your standard, even boutique hotel that sometimes seems very minimalistic in terms of the story that it's telling. In a lot of cases, there really isn't a story that's being told other than through decor, furniture, design, and perhaps some of the elements of branding. But what's different here at the Hotel Drei Rabben is that they've given us this story, a series of stories and myths that I think energize our stay as a guest, and particularly in this day and age of lifestyle hotels in Europe and the States, I think there's much more interest in guests staying in a space like this that really defies your typical expectation when you think about hotels. So I hope you enjoyed the video feature today, and please come back for additional video features from Nuremberg, Germany, from Europe, and from around the world.